Da-da, da-da-da-da-da. It's a great song. It's a fantastic song. Hi, it's me, David Campbell, with the Conspiracy Theory. We're back. We're back again. Don't forget that we are ESSR. All right, go and check us out on the podcast feeds. Go and check us out on a Tuesday. We do our feature content over there. It's fantastic. It's a great time. We have Central on a Thursday ordinarily. A lot of great shows on this YouTube channel. Go and check out Quiz Showdown. They'll be celebrating their year-long anniversary soon enough. A lot of great things planned for that from Mr. Daniel Campbell. Book it. We'll be back soon. And also we have this show as well. And now, big announcement to kick us off. This will be my last show as host on Conspiracy Theory. It's a show I've very much enjoyed doing, but I think it's a show that deserves new hands. It deserves new things. It deserves a new vision. And it deserves the vision of a man like this. It's Mr. Alan McLucas, everybody.
Hey!
How's it going? How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good now. I couldn't think of anyone better to take over this show, but this seemed like a good idea to do a passing of the torch show between the two of us. I'm looking forward to this one today.
Exactly. Learn from the master. I bow to you.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure who the master is. He's certainly not me. He's certainly not here, but I appreciate the sentiment nonetheless. Now, we are going to be talking about Quacker Adji's popped in to say he is Hornswoggle's da. I'm not convinced of that one, despite the fact that we talk about much on this show. Not convinced of that particular conspiracy theory. We will be talking about the news that Daniel Bryan, his contract's expired, which sounds like a conspiracy theory in itself, you know what I mean? It was something that I didn't think was really on the cards. Alan, what did you think about this news story?
I mean, I'd heard that this run was going to be his last run, so he wants to stay at home with the kids, but I didn't expect it to be over this quickly if it's, legit.
Yeah. You say legit because there is the possibility he could stay with WWE. Now, we don't know where Daniel Bryan is going to go, but what we are going to speculate on is potential matchups and programs that he could have wherever he ends up. One of those places, like you alluded to, Alan, is on the WWE main roster. Now, Raw and SmackDown won't be SmackDown, we know that. He's been banished unless they do some sort of storyline like what was the American character that Hulk Hogan played? Captain America? Mr. America? Mr. America, wasn't it?
I think. I don't know.
Something like that. US agent. Yeah, I don't know. We're just getting to Marvel now. Daniel Campbell says, "Give your shoes." No. I'm not actually wearing shoes right now either. So fuck that. But anyway, if he does end up going to Raw, if he re-signs and going to Raw, Alan, is there anyone that you could see him feuding with on that particular brand?
There's a lot. I think you could do a lot with Drew for a start, because a lot of people have been kind of negative about Drew's title run. It's not really had a lot of great rivalries, but I think it's been pretty decent. But I think Daniel Bryan in the mix would be really, really good. Him going after Bobby Lashley as well, former WWE champion he is, would be brilliant. I'm trying to think of anyone else. I mean, he'd also be really good as a manager because he can also talk as well. So even like if he became Braun's manager and he became the voice of the beard,
oh, nice,
something like that would even work.
That's actually pretty fun. I think that we could have a lot of comedy to it as well.
Exactly.
With Bryan and Braun. You see Drew there. Drew's the one that stuck to my mind immediately. It seems like since Drew's become this A player, this main event player in WWE, we haven't seen him cross paths with Daniel Bryan. And Bryan, for me, his best matches in WWE have come against the bigger guys as well. We've seen the match with Reigns for one. We have a Facebook user. I want him tagging with Drew Gulak and actually having a tag team title run. That's not a bad one to suggest. But I think McIntyre has that combination of size that goes against like Bryan's sort of cruiserweight, high-flying style at times, and then he can match Bryan if they wanted to go for a bit of a technical masterpiece at some point. So it's a match that gives you that dynamicism, easy for me to say, within it, so I do quite like that. We have Pam here who's saying, Chapapi Munyayo. Konnichiwa to you too as well. Right. But that's the options for Monday Night Raw. Now, he could end up potentially going a lateral move to NXT. It's always a possibility. It has been rumored. It's been on the cards. You say away at Dream. What would you like to see him do in NXT though?
Cross, Balor, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Ciampa, Timothy Thatcher. That's just singles matches. You could put him in a team with any of them either as
Tell
well.
me more.
Oh,
Can you imagine? Like, I would like to see him against, because you've said established NXT names there, right?
mm-hmm.
I agree with that. That would be fantastic. But he could make someone. Can you imagine Daniel Bryan in a feud with L.A. Knight? That would be fantastic. It was Jack Graham who said about Drew Gulak, by the way. So I don't know why he's saying Facebook use that either, Jack. That's not my problem anymore. That's Alan's problem to fix for next time.
I don't have the controls that.
But also, LA Knight would be a good one. I would like to see. And also, my God, man, have you been watching NXT recently? Have you seen the stuff that Cameron Grimes has been doing with Ted DiBiase?
Yeah, it's so good.
Favorite part of my week. Can you imagine Bryan Grimes, that program?
I mean, for me, I think the best options available to him are at NXT. Yeah. But I think if he has to stay with WWE, Raw needs some more in him because Raw is severely lacking in any form of good storytelling, main event presence. It's really just got no power or feel to it. It's really struggling. So I can understand Raw's probably more likely, but NXT for the purest of wrestling fans, it's just potential 5-star match after 5-star match. I mean, the one for me, the most I'd want to see would be him versus Thatcher. That would be an amazing, an I Quit match or a 2 or 3 falls, something like that. But you have to absolutely kill.
Alan, you need to put those motherfuckers in the fight pit. That's where you need to put them, man. Honestly. Oh, can you imagine?
Oh, I know. Oh, actually, hang on. It's actually made me. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm just.
You all right?
Hang on.
Oh, dear.
Oh. That's a bit better. Did you hear that?
I heard it. I think. I don't know.
It's to be mans are after my ideas. I knew it all along.
But you need to stop them. I heard Callus is after them as well, so you need to stop them.
They can't hear me now.
They can't hear you now. It's like Mike Nito did, to Professor X in the X-Men. It's smart.
Unagi.
Salmon skin roll as well, my friend. But anyway, so we've talked about what he could do in WWE. I think you're right. If he does re-sign, Raw's probably the destination because there are no main event players over there right now. Outside of the ones who are in that main event, Lashley, Drew, Strowman, who else is going to challenge Lashley? I don't know. Quacko is a tin hat and 5 points for observation for the next quiz showdown. All right, you can tell Daniel that I've authorised that. Pamela has also said salmon skin roll. Thank you, friends, fans over here. But outside of WWE, Alan, what is the promotion that you would like to see Bryan compete in if he was to leave McMahon Land?
That's a good one. I mean, I did read our very own Mr. Stephen Wilson's piece today where he said New Japan is a potential option.
Oh.
I do think he would be very interested over it. Him, Jay White. Just imagine that.
Switchblade.
Mm-hmm. I don't think AEW's got too many ex-WWE guys now, and it's kind of overcrowded. It's got too big a roster and it needs a bit thinning. But New Japan would be incredible to go over there and see him. Especially Okada,
Well, Wilson, I bet you Wilson didn't mention an Okada match in that article because
no, he did not.
He has a grudge against the man for some reason. But Okada versus Bryan or Danielson, as it might be called in the indie circuit,
that's true,
that would definitely, that's selling out the Tokyo Dome. That's causing a stir, because they've talked about the possibility of Ospreay Punk for the New Japan Championship. I would say that Okada Danielson is a bigger match. For me personally, I think, you've got the obviously Punk coming back is a big story, but Danielson competing in New Japan against Okada, and you've got other matches he could have there as well that would be equally Danielson Ibushi is something I think we'd all love to see. Can you imagine the throwback feel of Danielson Kenta in New Japan? I mean, that would be that's something. That is something that is very interesting.
As well.
Oh, it's nice. I wish
Robbie Summers just went, I hear NATO.
Wish we had Grant on this podcast here to try and give us some other names. We're top. He could tell us some of the more indie darlings of the Japanese circuit. But Daniel saying Alan has gone from being the big dog to the tin dog. He's canine. Oh wow, Doctor Who reference as well. A lot of TV shows getting referenced here on today's show.
Yeah.
But you did mention AEW, Alan, and I'd probably be inclined to agree with you. I do believe that roster does suffer at times from the fact they have too much talent. They're trying to take up too much talent as well. Maybe a lot of them don't get the airtime that they should have. Those AEW originals who came in with the promise of, we're going to build you up, we're going to make you big stars. Oh, sorry, we've signed Moxley. Oh, sorry, we've signed Christian Cage. Oh, sorry. You get pushed further down the card. Danielson would come in and he'd take one of the big spots. No doubt about that. He'd have the big matches. But is it good for AEW to sign Danielson outside of maybe a pot in ratings for those couple of matches? I'm not so sure. However, I will ask you, if he was to go to AEW, what matches would you like to see him compete in?
I think Omega would be the first one. I think that's the one that would be in everyone's lips. But the one I would be really interested to watch him compete is against Hangman.
Yeah.
I think Hangman could do an absolute classic together.
Yeah. I think Jack Graham would love that. He has Hangman in the draft this season, so he'd be like, points, perhaps. At that point, that's all we think about here at the Saturday Draft Live team. But I do agree, I think Hangman would be a great match. I think that Danielson against Eddie Kingston would be a fantastic program. Like, can you imagine Danielson comes in and Kingston, he could be the voice of what we've just spoke about. Oh, it's all these guys who come from McMahon's territory coming here. If you want to prove yourself, you prove yourself against me, you prove yourself against Eddie Kingston. And I think that could be something. And something I would love, a match that I think would really suit Danielson's style, and I think elevate this guy further up AEW's pecking order. Danielson versus Bryan Cage. Can you imagine the clash of styles there?
Mm-hmm. Just love another one. And as far as I'm aware, I'll start by saying correct if I'm wrong. I'd like to cross paths in WWE. Pac, Bryan. Yeah, Bryan Danielson. That's it. Try to see Pac.
It's just Pac.
That would be an incredible match, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And you got to look. He's a guy who can really work with any style, as I said. Like, he's so versatile. You look at, he plays the plucky underdog at one WrestleMania, beating Triple H, Batista, and Orton in the one night, and then he plays the despicable heel against Kofi Kingston at another WrestleMania, both in world title matches.
Yeah.
He is a guy who get you a guy who can do both. That's Bryan Danielson. He can really do whatever he wants to put his mind to. Outside of that, I have a proposition for you. Okay.
Oh.
Impact Wrestling have this number one contenders tournament going on to take on Omega for their title. What if you had Bryan Danielson, surprise entry one side of that bracket for Impact, good business for Impact Wrestling?
Yep.
And what if you had Samoa Joe, the other side of that bracket for Impact? They two face off at the pay-per-view. Kenny Omega interferes, time limit draw. I'm sort of fantasy booking here. For the Impact World title, you have Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson versus Samoa Joe in a triple threat match.
It's that gift. Take my money. That is it. I mean, but it's just when you mention Impact, I'm just thinking of other names that you throw out there. I'd love to see him go head to head with somebody I've actually seen in the flesh and is an amazing performer, Sami Callihan.
Oh. Yes.
Especially when it comes to chops. You know how they both love to chop each other. Daniel Bryan.
You've seen him after that Greatest Royal Rumble, the photo after the Greatest Royal Rumble. Oh, yeah.
Practically his lungs, And, when Sammy came to Glasgow and he got into a chopping war with BT, he started to get the crowd, including myself, we all turned on him going, take off that protector, and he did that. And then you've seen him after he got one from BT, you actually seen his soul leave his body. So I think Bryan and him in a match together doing that to each other would be fantastic. Great money.
The only thing is with someone like Callahan, He's a great wrestler, but he veers towards that more extreme style, and whether Bryan wants to do that style anymore, it's up for debate. For me, I'd love to see him against Black Taurus. I fucking love that cunt, man. I think he's just great. I think he's fantastic. I seen him ringside this week on Impact when Scott D'Amore was making like his announcements for the future of the title, and I'm like, man, he just looks so cool. And I think Bryan has said many a time that he'd want to wrestle a bear. Black Taurus is very much the closest thing he's going to get to that. I think it would be a great match. It's like, I think it would be fantastic. It's so good.
I think it would be amazing.
So good. Now, is there anyone else in the companies we've not mentioned that you would like to see Bryan go up against?
Do you know what, right? Just for a curveball, a bit of intergender wrestling, because Impact's quite big on that, and they've done it previously, obviously, with Tessa becoming the world champion.
Yeah.
What if Jordan Grace against Bryan Danielson?
Okay, yeah.
That could be quite interesting. She's really unique. She's got the power, but she's also got the technical ability, and she's got a bit of speed to her as well. Yeah. So, it'd be interesting to see that dynamic.
That would be quite cool. I was going to go to NWE next, and I think Brian Aldis could be something that we could see.
Nick Aldis would be an interesting one, that would. Yeah,
because I do think that Brian would suit NWA, and that he's sort of that more traditional working man heel, babyface rather, that goes back to like the Dusty Rhodes character from back in the day. You know what I mean? So there's something there as well, and I think part of me thinks the sentimentality would draw him back to Ring of Honor. Like I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But I'm not actually sure what Ring of Honor's roster is like at the present time. If I'm brutally honest with you,
I'll be honest. I don't know much, but like from a biased perspective, I would love to see him against Joe Hendry. I know Joe's still here still. I know he's not back to stay. But Joe Hendry has been bulking up. He's a big boy. He's built like a shit brickhouse.
Yeah.
Him and Daniel Bryan, you're talking about he gets on well with big guys.
Yeah.
And obviously, Bryan's an incredible technical wrestler, but Joe's a Commonwealth athlete.
Yeah.
He knows wrestling.
And Joe Hendry's the type of guy you get the impression he just needs that big match or that big break, like to really get noticed, like on the bigger stage.
Kurt Angle was prepared to wrestle. Yeah, he managed to get the money stumped up, get the match, and Kurt Angle was blown away with the performance. He said it was a really good match. So it's really highly thought of.
I don't understand, Joe. Like we're veering off slightly, but it's the conspiracy theory, so we can do whatever the fuck we want. But I'm surprised that Joe Hendry has never had the call up from WWE. I think that he's the guy that would sort of suit the McMahon style. I don't know if there is this feeling that there's a cap for Scottish wrestlers because they have McIntyre. Are they like, we've already got our Scottish big man, we don't need a second one? You know what I mean? Is that the impression?
I don't know. Well, NXT UK has got quite a strong roster of Scottish performers. You've got like the Coffee Brothers, you've got Wolfie there, you've got Noam Dar, you've got Kenny Williams. It's quite a lot of Scottish people there. And, biased opinion here, the Scottish performers are probably the best performers on the show, or they're up there as the best ones. And also Keely Ray, longest reigning women's champion in WWE. You've got Viper, who's still there. I don't know if maybe they feel it's too much, but I think Joe could certainly easily do a job there. And I think he certainly could do a job in the States.
I think we're talking about matches for Daniel Bryan. We forgot to mention Volter. Can you imagine Bryan Volter?
Oh, a slapping match. Oh,
hard.
And what is at the same time you don't, because you're just like, I think Walter might literally go through him. It'll be like Mortal Kombat. Straight through.
I'd love it, man. It'd be like a fucking elephant trying to spot a fly. Although a more competitive matchup, hopefully. Now, before we go, Alan, let's get the prediction and the official prediction on the future of Daniel Bryan. What do you think he is going to do?
I honestly think he's retiring.
Wow.
I really would love to see him go. If all the options we discussed, Japan, do 1 year in Japan, but I think he knows he's been on borrowed time since he came back again. And with the young kids and stuff, I genuinely think he's done, because he's been saying for a long time, once he gets to that point, he wants to watch his kids grow up. I just thought he'd maybe had another year in him, but I think he's done. I hope I'm wrong.
I'd like to see him do Total Bellas full time. No, I'm kidding on. Personally, I'm. People are going to hate me for this. I'm a WWE fan first and foremost, but my favorite brand in WWE is NXT.
Yeah,
I
totally agree.
I would love that run. I think if you did some sort of storyline where he takes over as general manager for a time, maybe Regal gets attacked, keeps on TV without having to have him wrestle, and then when Regal's attacker is revealed, then we could put Bryan in a feud against that person,
Mm-hmm.
So that would be something like an LA Knight would fit that role well, a Cameron Grimes could fit that role
Yeah.
well. A number of people on that roster, could really fill that in. Volter even, Imperium are showing up there an awful lot.
Do you know somebody just totally
So,
forgot you mentioned NXT?
yeah.
Pete Dunne.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh
Pete
my
Dunne.
god.
That would be
Take my money.
so good, man. And this is the thing that's exciting. And it's been exciting about Bryan since he came back, has been the matches we've wanted to see him in. And the matches we have seen him in have been glorious. Since he came back at Mania, who did he fight? Owens and Zayn at Mania. He fought Zayn the next year in a singles match at Mania, Then he comes in, he's in the main event against Roman and Edge. The man, since his return, has had a good run. He's had a stellar, in-ring career in WWE.
Yeah.
Kofi Kingston as well. I forgot about Kofi. So he's had a plethora of good WrestleMania matches since he returned. But I just hope this isn't it, because for me, since I started thinking critically about wrestling, Daniel Bryan's become my favourite performer of the present day. I just think the man has defined a generation in a way that's similar to what Eddie did, or Shawn did, or Orton did to an extent. When people talk about who was the best performer of your generation, I think they'll talk about this man. So we'll just need to see, where he ends up and how it goes from here, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, great episode of the Conspiracy Theory. My last episode, Alan, you will be back hosting this show, and it's going to be a very exciting time.
Yes, don't worry, I will. Did you hear that? Yeah. Don't worry, me and my tin hat, we're going to keep it going strong. Don't you worry. I've got a few up my sleeve. We're going to keep this going strong, baby.
I like it. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. And I won't see you next time. But from Alan,
I will see you next time, everyone. Take care.
Bye.